practice for the vessels and capillary dynamics exam. Let's go. First question, the systemic pathway question, the blood vessels that leave the heart and help you return to the heart. Number 1, far left. Arteries. Arterioles. Capillaries. Venules. And veins. So number 1 through 5, first part of the exam. Next pathway. So this is the pathway with the injection that you're going to the heart and then down to the kidneys and back to the heart. Let's go. So we're going to focus on the yellow section of the pathway and then move throughout the rest of it. So first section of the pathway, number 1 at the top. Basilic vein. Axillary vein. Subclavian vein. Brachiocephalic vein. Superior vena cava. Next set. Leaving the left side of the heart. Ascending aorta. Aortic arch. Descending aorta. Past the diaphragm. Abdominal aorta. Renal artery. Out of the kidney. Renal vein. And inferior vena cava to the heart. Next pathway. So this pathway is leaving the heart, going to the right middle finger and returning to the heart. Let's go. So first section, leaving the left ventricle. Ascending aorta. Aortic arch. Brachiocephalic artery. Subclavian artery. Axillary artery. Next section. Brachial artery. Radial artery. Palmar arch. Digital artery. Leaving the right middle finger. Venous palmar arch. Radial vein. Brachial vein. Last part to get to the heart. Axillary vein. Subclavian vein. Brachiocephalic vein. And superior vena cava back to the heart. Next section, the 9 branches of the abdominal aorta, remembering that the lumbar arteries number 5 is going to be already on the test. Let's go. First 4 at the top. celiac trunk, superior mesenteric artery, middle suprarenal artery, renal arteries. Next section. Gonadal arteries, inferior mesenteric artery, median sacral artery, common iliac arteries. Next section. So labeling of the cerebral arterial circle, also called the circle of Willis. So the importance of the circle of Willis is blood distribution in the brain. Time for labeling. So starting with number 1 through 4. Internal carotid artery, anterior communicating artery, anterior cerebral artery, and posterior communicating artery. Last 3. Posterior cerebral artery, basilar artery, vertebral artery. Next labeling. The hepatic portal system. So the hepatic portal system has 3 importances to this system. So we'll do them step by step. So, 1 importance of the hepatic portal system. Drain blood from the abdominal region. Sends nutrients to the liver first. And allows the liver to detox the blood. Time for labeling. So it's 4 on this one, starting with number 1. Splenic vein, inferior mesenteric vein, superior mesenteric vein, and lastly, hepatic portal vein. Next section. So now we're on to the capillary dynamics, the calculations. So here's an example calculation for you. Just as a reminder to make sure you don't forget that sheet. So on a separate sheet on the exam, you will first make sure to draw your arrows of which direction this pressure is pushing the fluid out or into the capillaries. So our little red tube is our capillary. So for our arrows, colloid osmotic pressure of the blood is the only into the capillary force. Everybody else's arrows, so down and down for these two. Everyone else, draw a up arrow to show that you're pushing fluid out of the capillary or drawing fluid out of the capillary. Next section, the actual calculations. So remember, compare apples to apples, oranges to oranges. So your hydrostatic pressures to each other, your colloid osmotic pressures to each other. And if they are going in the same direction, you add them. If they're going in the opposite direction, you subtract them. Remember, again, colloid osmotic pressure of the blood is the only one that goes into the capillary direction. So That's the only one you're going to be doing some subtracting on. Then we might get to the later section. Anyway, let's go. So first one, arterial hydrostatic pressure. What are the two numbers that we're going to be comparing, and what is the math for it? We have 32 out plus 3 out. So that combined pressure is 35 out. Same direction, we added them. And on the test, again, if you have these two switched, I don't care, I'm just looking for the numbers. So if this was 3 out and 32 out, you'd still be fine. And your math may be right. Next one, arterial and osmotic pressure. $20 in, 6 out. So we got to do some subtraction, opposite directions. 14 in. Next set. Venous in hydrostatic pressure. $11 out, 4 out, same direction, we add 15 out. So just a reminder on the test, there will be on either the arterial side or the venous side, not switching sides in between. So only on one section or the other. They'll be mixed. So that way your, what are these? Your tissue pressures might be switched or the blood pressures might be switched just on their side. So that way you don't have like crossing over. It's just in that section. So here, our placement for our tissue pressures were flipped. So our hydrostatic pressure that over here is on the left. It is now on the right on this one, just as a way to make sure you know what you're talking about. So venous in hydrostatic pressures, 11 out, 4 out. Same direction, we add 15 out. Next pressure, venous in osmotic pressure. $23 in, 7 out, opposite directions. So we got to subtract. So we have 16 in. For our net filtration pressure, which two pressures are we comparing and what is the math? Oh, sorry, forgot that part. Just circling that one. Okay, try again. Net filtration pressure, numbers. 35 out, 14 in. So on the test, if you want to circle stuff for making sure you're comparing the right ones, draw arrows. I don't care as long as the numbers are in the correct slot. So we have our 35 out from arterial in, our 14 in from our arterial in. So our opposite directions, we got to subtract. We got 21 out. So if you do all the math, whatever, somewhere on the outside edges, because you won't get a calculator, you can do it, whatever. I don't care. I'm only looking here. Okay. Pull out your fingers and toes. I don't know if you got that many toes, but I'm just saying. Okay. Net reabsorption pressure. $15 out, 16 in. Opposite directions. We got to subtract, so we're just left with 1 in. These made up numbers anyway. Okay, last part of the sheet. Do not forget this. So many people do, and it's actually worth 2 points by itself. Sorry. Again, comparing those last two bits. Okay, cool. Is X or Y the arterial end and why? X is the arterial end because the blood pressure is higher on the arterial end. So some version of blood pressure higher on the arterial end or something to that effect, or blood pressure decreases to the venous. And some version of, I know that you understand that blood pressure is high on this end, but gets lower on that one. But high on the arterial end is good enough. Okay. Good luck. You got this.